Hello everyone, it's good to see you again. So I'm here today to talk about what honestly I've been asked a million times to talk about, and that is how to design a Larp character. And I really want to go into like the theory of Larp design with a character because, you know, I think a lot of people, especially new Larpers, when they start out, they fall into the trap of like, okay, I'm gonna make my wish fulfillment, and there are LARPs and there are games where that is the time and place, but majority of the time, people who end up doing that get lost, or they don't know like where to take their character next, or it's so hard to imagine like killing off the character and stuff like that. Like you get attached to it because it's attached to you and the fulfillment that you're seeking. I think a really good thing to start thinking about when you make a LARP character is what kind of story are you seeking to tell or play out, right? You could want to do a romance and, you know, have it be a tragedy or a comedy, or you could have a character that's driven by mystery, like maybe somebody killed their parents or their sister or whatever, and you're trying to find that out. Or maybe it's a redemption arc, or maybe it's a corruption arc. I think fundamentally the first thing that you should do is look up archetypes. Figure out the archetype that you want to play. A really great place to do that is to go on tvtropes.org. Oh my god, it's like, that is like my number one way of looking up tropes, because like, I think we all want to play something cool, but LARP is just heightened reality, right? And like tropes come from somewhere. Tropes come from, they're fun. Frankly, they're fun. Yes, they're cliche, but they're cliche because they're great storytelling elements. And sometimes they're cheesy and sometimes they're serious and whatever. There's a whole spectrum. It just matters what kind of narrative you're trying to tell. And what I'm teaching you guys here today, and what I'm trying to like get you guys to learn about designing your own LARP characters, is that this should fundamentally work no matter the style of game. It doesn't matter if this is an American freeform game with like boffer combat. It doesn't matter if it's a, you know, blockbuster experience happening in Europe with a castle and you're making your own character. It really shouldn't matter. All of these core design principles remain the same. So the first thing, like I said, think of your story, think of your archetype. Knowing the archetype for your character is gonna be one of the core elements, and knowing the story you're trying to tell. And listen, the thing of what makes LARP fun is the unpredictability of the narrative, right? Like you have PvP elements and PvE elements that kind of shake up the narrative you're trying to tell. So PvE meaning player versus environment, and PvP being player versus player. And PvE can be like, you're minding your own business, the tavern maid's doing what she's gonna do, and oops, a beast man pops out of the bushes and grabs her, right? So that is a PvE element that could change the course of the story, and you can run with that. And then there's PvP elements where usually in games, you know, it comes down to consent and what you would like to get involved with another player, especially like a romance, where, you know, you clearly state, okay, like I'm interested in doing X, Y, or Z thing with this character with you, and etc. Besides like understanding your story and the way that you want to go for, understanding the archetypes that will influence that story, you need to actually think about the LARP that you're in, the world that you're in. I think one of the most obnoxious LARPer like bad habits is like people will create a character and then like force it into the LARP, that even if it doesn't necessarily fit the setting, they're just gonna like make it work for the setting. And honestly, each character, LARP character that you design should have a thoughtful place with the world that they're in. Like, if you're gonna play a post-apocalyptic game, I wouldn't necessarily port over your fantasy character, but in a different skin. Like, usually in LARP communities, that's seen as very poor form, like to port over a character or to take a character directly from something. I mean, there are LARPs where that is the exception, like Drakenfest, where you're literally taking your character from another universe, like a D&D or a fandom or another LARP and stuff like that. So like that's kind of the exception. But in general, if you're like you're gonna go play a post-apocalyptic LARP, don't take your Edwardian historical drama LARP character and trying to like fit them into that. I would, take elements of the character that you enjoy and retool them into the environment. LARP creators make us a playground of the worlds that they design, and as players, that are buying into this environment, it's also on us to create characters that fit that environment, that fit like the vibe of what they're going for. I wouldn't want to be the guy that goes to the post-apocalyptic LARP and like shows up in inappropriate costume because I didn't read the rule book or the costuming requirements, because the thing about going from the root of the character and learning about your archetypes and learning about, the story you want to tell is that fundamentally, no matter what race or character type you choose from the rule book, those elements should still be able to be played upon regardless of like the character's mind, regardless if it's like an orc or an elf or a zombie or whatever. It doesn't matter. The core elements that drive the character remain the same. So definitely keep that in mind where, you are creating another piece of this living world, of this collective story that you have signed up to be a part of. Don't be obnoxious and make a character that doesn't belong in that setting. We've talked about getting your archetype together. We've talked about getting your story together. And you may say, oh, I don't know, like, where to even begin with my story. Like, how do I get other people involved? This, that, and the other. Well, most LARPs, especially like most classic American style LARPs, which I know a lot of the people who watch me have attended. The LARPs that I attend nowadays, like my home LARPs are like Malleus and whatnot, and all of those come from the emergent game theory, like the emergent LARP theory, where play emerges as you continue. There are no mods, there are no NPCs, there's no little quest modules per se, like, the staff sent out an NPC and it's 3 p.m. and okay, I know that this is the spider module, so I'll go out and fight that and then come back and do the goblin module at 5 p.m. with my character. Because that's more, to me, like games that are like that are more like live action D&D, which again, nothing wrong with that, but I find that the people who are craving roleplay and craving engaging stories, yes, you can get involved with those modules, but it's like you have to think about your place within that narrative. Like, I think treating the world that you're in as a true, like, tangible place will help you also get immersed in it more. Like, it only seeks to benefit your immersion and therefore the people around you. Because like if you buy into it, everybody else is buying into it, right? Like everybody else is gonna get even more immersed because you're immersed, right? And so it's a ripple effect. And if you are buying into this world and not treating it in the meta context as a game, and you're treating it as your character in their story, as they would react to this if it was a real thing that was happening, that's gonna be a lot easier to engage your story rather than being like, oh, okay, I know that this is, the mod right before they send out the big bad guy, and I wanna make sure that I X, Y, and Z, instead of engaging the world as a collective plot. Because when you engage, and again, this doesn't matter the style of LARP that you're attending, because even if you're going to a super crunchy American style classic boffer LARP, engaging with people in lifting their roleplay and lifting your character's story through roleplay and through others' roleplay only creates a more immersive environment, right? And so you may go, okay, well, I've picked my story, I picked my archetype, I've made my character work for the world. You know, well, how do I pick my skills, right? Because a lot of games and a lot of LARPs have mechanical skills. Not all of them, but a lot here in the United States still use skills. My big opinion, and this is definitely something that is contested and highly argued within the community, but honestly, I have always felt personally that whatever skills you take should reflect the character. The skills don't make the character makes the skills. So I played Dystopia Rising for 5 years as my character Dexter. And it was, again, a classic system where it had like a front and back sheet where you had to like write when you used a skill so a marshal can check it off, and you had like points that you could put towards your health and, you know, your armor points and all sorts of things like that, okay? You had item cards, the whole shebang. All right, I played that for 5 years, and the thing is that I only upgraded my character skills twice in 5 years. I had 11 body. Guys, I still have 11 body. If I ever come back to Dystopia Rising, you know that I have 11 body, and you could just immediately kill me, and that's fine. But the thing is that my character Dexter was a deadbeat alcoholic who was like, I'm really good at being a field medic, and that's all I ever want to be, and that's all she ever was. I literally had those skills, and I didn't even get into like the pro level branches, and like, because there's some LARPs that have like the most insane skill trees. They're like, that's a whole other thing. I mean, guys, there are LARP rule books that are like 400, 500, 600 pages. They're insane, okay? Like, I don't even know. That's a whole other conversation. But when you're like, okay, I've made this character, this is my idea, I can't find a skill that matches what I want to do, or I can't figure out what class I want to play. At that point, I would reach out to staff or some other veteran players and be like, hey, so this is what I was thinking, and this is the story I have in mind, and the kind of character I'm trying to play. These are my archetypal things. I want to be a repairman who moonlights as a alcoholic vampire. Sure, we're just whatever, it's an example. So, you know, okay, what skills work for that? What class should I be? Can I even be a vampire? And like, this is what ties back into make sure you read your rulebook, make sure you make a character that fits the world. Like, it's a stage process, you know? It's like you start with like, if I were to equate it to drawing, you're starting with your sketch, then your rough line work, and then your rough colors, and then, you know, you're going in for your full colors, and then at the end you shade. It's the same thing, where it's like, okay, I have my archetypes, I have my story, I have, you know, my in-character world background, and also, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. No one's gonna read your backstory, sweetie. I'm sorry. No one's gonna read it. You can write it. It's for you. And there's some LARPs that are like, you can submit your backstory. That way the plot team can engage with your backstory because they know all your secrets. Sure. The staff will read your backstory. But even then, most staff doesn't want to read, like, they'll put like a page limit on your backstory. And I have never really found the need to write out my story since I was in high school, because I realized that like, I felt a lot of stress trying to write them out, and then I realized like nobody was reading it. It's like flavor text for you. If it helps you get more immersed, like if it's something that if you can read it before game helps you get in character, fine, do that. That's fantastic. Or, you know, if you got friends, you're like, you wanna see my backstory? And they say yes. Oh, that's amazing. Great, that's a great feeling. But majority of the time, frankly, sorry, nobody gives a shit. And that's okay. And that's okay, because that's what makes LARP personal. It's about what you feel and what like story you're telling and what's important to you. Okay, so you've designed your character, you kind of know what they feel like, you know what the story is going to be, and now you're like, oh my god, what do they look like? What do they look like? How do I get this vision in my head? Or I don't even know how to begin making this character look the way I see them in my head. Or how I'm playing the character, maybe I don't see myself like that in my own mind space, right? Well, this is the beauty of design, because design is all about enacting optical illusions. It's all about optical illusions, where your eye goes, and controlling what you see and where you see things. So the first thing I would implore you to think about and study or even look up is character silhouettes. Silhouettes are a really important thing. Like, you can have a costume from Goodwill, Amazon, whatever, but if you have a strong silhouette, all of a sudden it takes a costume that, you know, you paid $15 for looking like it's a $140 costume or $300 costume. Because having an idea of what you're trying to portray visually with the character, because, you know, it's LARPing is not just acting, it's visual communication, right? You're telling somebody a story by enacting it and showing it, right? So if you are playing a burly character that's supposed to be strong, right? Maybe that could be on your silhouette, or the one that you're trying to encapsulate, really broad padded shoulders. So maybe all the costuming pieces that you have, you sew shoulder padding in to give yourself this really structured, bulky look, right? Or the armor that you get, you get armor that makes you look 3 times your size, or you get, poofy sleeves that make you look like you have these big muscles, but maybe in real life you don't, and that's fine. I don't believe that LARP has to be a complete, honest one-to-one. There are some LARPs that is like, what you see is what you get, which, like, again, totally respect that. And in the case of a LARP where it's like what you see is what you get, then really think about what you are capable of doing or fabricating or buying or anything like that, and create that strong silhouette. And, for women, I would say, like, femme characters or, female characters have a little bit more flexibility in their silhouettes, because we have things like corsets, we have, bras, bust padding, hip padding. There are so many think about it. That's all we've done throughout history. I mean, even to the 50s, even today, people wear padded bras, padded underwear, it's all stuff that exists, right? And that kind of silhouette work can help you in LARP. So, for Odette, what really sells Odette to me in the costume is that I have the correct undergarments for her. So I wear late 17th century stays. And those stays give me like that flat busk look. And even though there are elements from my costume design for Odette that come from more like, Bavarian tavern-made Oktoberfest kind of silhouettes, because I have the right undergarments, it just like looks right. It just like fits in the world. And that would be the same for any historical LARP. If you're doing a Victorian LARP and you have a corset that gets you, either is a Victorian corset or can get you close enough to the silhouette, it will make a world of difference for whatever you buy and whatever you wear. They make everything from chest pads to, shoulder pads. Really get creative with how you dictate your character's silhouette, because having a strong impact visually with your costume is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than having, a crazy backstory. It's also good psychologically to differentiate yourself from your character, because you're putting on all this makeup, you're putting on this costume, and when you're done, you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I'm not me anymore. I'm so-and-so, right? Like, I think the most notable transformation for that for me is Alicia, because she's so, like, I have dark hair, I have dark eyes, and all of a sudden, like, I do this glittery makeup and I put in my blue contacts and I put on this white hair, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, hello, I am a half-elf mage and I'm gonna go do cool spells, bye. Like, that is my vibe. And I think having strong silhouette, strong, like, structure to your character's outfits is such a game changer to how you come off in LARP. And also people will recognize you. You know, if you have a color scheme, pick colors for your character. You know, pick your silhouette. You know, a lot of what I'm telling you guys also comes from like character like design. Like if you were to design like a comic book character or an animated character for a movie, these are all very similar design concepts. And I'll link some resources down below to a lot of articles that go into like character drafting and character design, and they will just elaborate on these themes. But thankfully, I'm here to tell you how they explicitly apply to LARP. I think another good tip too is that like if you want a character to feel different from yourself, try wearing a wig. You know, try filling in your eyebrows a different color. You know, go with an unnatural hair color. Wear contacts. There are so many ways to really like make you feel different from the character. And I find that when people really get into like the finer details about like even things sometimes that people will never see or really never notice without someone telling them about it or you specifically showing them, it's amazing what that does for you and for your clique. Which leads me into my next thing, which is like, you know, I also get the question a lot, and it's like, okay, well, how do I stay consistently immersed, right? Like, how do I stay immersed as my character? I've designed them. Now I've dressed as them. I do my makeup, and now I'm at the LARP, and I'm really nervous of actually playing and staying immersed as my character.
Editing Raquel here. So I just want to let you guys know that immersion is a huge topic in the LARP community, and it is incredibly subjective, and what it means to people varies. We're not having that conversation today. I'm specifically only talking about how it relates to character and character design. Okay, back to the video.
Now, I won't lie to you. I have a really solid thing that I kind of like tell most new LARPers, where I'm like, give it three events. You need to usually play a character for about 3 events to really figure out their voice, how they walk, how they talk, you know, everything about them. It's gonna take you time to figure out the character. And I usually tell people, I'm like, give it 3 events. If you're still not vibing with your character after event 3, redesign them, retweak them, maybe scrap them entirely and rework the concept. Like, but you really need to give it like a fair try. For some people that can take as long as 6 events. It just depends on how you feel, right? Like if you're like, okay, I like it, but I'm still kind of getting my footing and I'm a little nervous and I've never LARPed before, like just give yourself time. LARP is an art. It's a skill, guys. It's not just something that, you know, some people are just really good at it from the first time they LARP ever without any prompting. Like, that is true. I've seen that. But sometimes that's not true. And sometimes it takes practice. It took me practice. It took me 3 events playing Dexter before I really figured out, oh, okay, this is her. This is how I want to play her. This is who she is. This is how she sounds. You know, and even Alicia, it took me about 3 or 4 events to really like figure out who she was, because it's really nice when you write out a whole backstory and everything like that, but like when it actually comes to playing it and bringing the character to life, it may not go the way you think it will, and that's okay. That happens, and it's fine. And you have to be willing, when you're designing a character, to redesign a character. And maybe, you know, the type of character you thought you were gonna play, like you were gonna play this angsty, mysterious, you know, kind of character, it's not working for you. You're not having fun, I think people are having a hard time interacting with you. Okay, how do I change that? What am I looking to engage with? Because I will say that there are just a few themes in LARP that simply do not work. Like, you cannot play a lone wolf character. LARP is a communal activity. It's a communal storytelling activity. So playing your cool lone wolf character, save that for D&D, man. It doesn't translate the same in LARP because we're all fundamentally working with each other. We're all telling a story together. So characters that tend to be like very antisocial are not usually like, and it doesn't mean they can't be like misanthropic. It doesn't mean that they can't hate people or like be very abrasive, but like you're still playing with other people, you know what I mean? So you still want to create characters that are fun to engage with. Like you don't want to just make a character that's fun for you to play. You want to make a character that's fun for people to play with. And I think going back to what I said in the beginning of the video, that's where people fall into that pitfall of doing like the wish fulfillment thing. You're making the character that you have dreamed since you were like 15 years old to play, right? And you bring them to life and you're like, this sucks. I am not having a good time. And I really thought I was, and I don't know what to do, and yada yada. Dude, that happens. Just adjust, you know, just as we are willing to, you know, say, hey, you know, this is what I want to be, we can also make the adjustments of, okay, this is my original concept, but I think for the game health, I need to be something else. I don't think I'm having fun with this character concept. I think in the end, you know, creating a good character is all about balancing your personal strengths, like what you want to do versus what you're challenging yourself to do versus what is obtainable to play in the game. You know, and keep all these points in mind. You know, this is all stuff I wish I was told, but when I started LARPing, I already had a character design background, because way back when I was in high school, I had the big dreams of being a character designer for Pixar. Did not happen. That's fine. We're here instead, and I like it anyway. But because I had that background, it made it really easy for me to design characters that had these really impactful looks, and I would like to think that as I've grown older and refined that, you know, each of my characters have their own spice. And listen, there's nothing wrong with using, you know, wigs all the time, or wearing your natural hair, or wearing contacts. There's no problem having characters look the same. Like, I literally have, I think I've played at this point 3 or 4 characters with white hair, and that's fine. I clearly have a type, but that's my God-given right as a LARPer, all right? Like, what are you gonna do, sue me? So, hello? You can do that too. It doesn't matter. You can have every character have black hair. The big thing is that, you know, it doesn't matter if you repeat visual elements. It's making sure that the characters remain unique. And that comes down to the archetypes you play and the story you're trying to tell. But I think with that, you know, I'd be really interested to hear your guys's like theory about how to make a LARP character and how to bring them to life down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Like, I want these to be, and like when we talk about like these theory and like what makes a good character, what makes a good LARPer, whatever, I want it to be an open forum where you guys can talk to me, and in a later video, I can answer you back. I mean, wouldn't that be fun? Ooh. But anyway, I think that's all I have. Here's my end rant, my end character design rant. And I hope you guys have a great time LARPing. And if you are thinking about making a character and you want an opinion or a recommendation from me, leave it down below. I'd be more than happy to give you some advice. All right, guys, so take it easy, have fun designing, and happy LARPing.